We are addressing you today, more than 2 months after the national lockdown was introduced by His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa on the 27th of March 2020. If you recall that on Monday, we had declared that Monday is a day of schools opening, which was announced by the President, which was gazetted. But on Monday in Rustenburg, in a media briefing, we did inform South Africans that indeed, after receiving a number of reports from the public, from our teacher unions, from oversight committees of Parliament, also from the consortium that we had also established, all indications were that it would not be safe to start the teaching and learning on the 1st of June. So we did inform the public that based on these critical reports which were presented to the CEM of the 30th of May 2020, we resolved that provinces should use the week of the 1st to the 8th to mop out or to clear out all outstanding deliveries of personal protective equipment and all outstanding provision of water and sanitation in schools. We also instructed our provinces to continue the cleaning of schools and make sure that they finalize it during the course of the week. They should finalize the training of screeners, of cleaners, of volunteers, but also of your national school nutrition program teams, because again, even in that respect, we have been forced to change even the way we provide our services. We also agree that teachers whose schools have already received their mask and all the necessary equipment should report for work on the 1st of June 2020 and prioritize the preparation of schools to deal with the new normal brought about by the coronavirus. Teachers and support staff should be inducted and orientated on the new school environment brought by COVID-19. That in return, teachers should induct, orientate, and counsel learners who would have arrived at schools to deal with the new environment, and that learners in grade 7 and 12 in most schools should only resume effective teaching on the 8th of June. So we also agreed on processes that were relating to independent schools, to small schools, and schools for learners with special needs, and that these have to be managed differently. I must say, Chair, that it is very gratifying to mention that indeed provinces stepped up to ensure that all prerequisites not yet fulfilled on the 30th of May were attended to during this mop-up week. And most important, I also want to take this opportunity to thank members of the public from different communities who joined us and assisted us in different areas. There was also lots of support we received from the private sector. They made huge contributions in terms of sanitizers, helping us to clean schools, but some also even provided us with masks. More important, I want to thank sister departments, especially the Department of Safety, and I'll explain why safety, of water and sanitation, but also of the Defense Force. The President has allowed us to really work with that department to help us, and it really helped. Because in some areas, for instance, we couldn't transport our goods to schools because they had to be escorted. There were lots of blockages around delivery of some of the equipment. And we did then agree with partners that we will reconvene on Thursday, the 4th, 2020, to continue to monitor and evaluate outstanding compliance imperatives. Indeed, CEM met as planned and continued consultations with sector partners until yesterday, Saturday, the 6th of June. And both meetings agreed that the mop-up has really drastically improved the national picture. And the meeting again did receive a number of reports from teacher unions, and I've since communicated with them, and they have committed that they will load their report on their websites, but will also load their report on the website. So we did receive a joint report from unions. We received reports from provincial heads of education, and DG will speak to that. We received a report from Rand Water to say how far we were, but also received a report from the National Consortium led by the NECT. And all these reports give highlights of all these reports indeed confirm the point that we have really moved a long way in being ready for teaching on the 8th of June. So, for instance, the number of provinces which were initially classified as low risk have improved from, for instance, 2 to 6. The number of provinces which are classified as high risk have improved to, there's not even one province now that is high risk, and they've improved to medium risk. And you will note that different provinces are at different stages depending on a number of factors that are there. Some of them, as I said earlier, equipments were being blocked on their way to schools by people who really wanted to have had an opportunity to provide services to the department, and that interfered greatly with the readiness of other provinces. So some of the problems that also delayed us were issues of vandalism. And I hope when MECs speak about their state of readiness will indicate how many schools have been vandalized. And even during the course of this week, we had quite a number of schools which were broken to. We got reports that people just come and kick your toilet seats, remove taps, just to really disorganize us. Up to now, we have more than 1,672 schools which have been vandalized. As I said, there was also interference with the deliveries of goods. The induction and orientation of teachers has not been completed. One of the biggest challenges that we had was around sanitation. And I think the public or members of the public will remember that the virus found us right organize us. Up to now, we have more than 1,672 schools which have been vandalized. As I said, there was also interference with the deliveries of goods. The induction and orientation of teachers has not been completed. One of the biggest challenges that we had was around sanitation. And I think the public or members of the public will remember that the virus found us right in the middle of our SAFE program. And because of the lockdown, we couldn't continue with the implementation of our sanitation program. And some of the contractors were only able to go back to site on the 1st of June. And that presented a number of challenges. But now, in short, we can say with confidence that about 95% of our schools have been to the net and to health, but also it's a commitment that we have gazetted that a school which is not COVID-19 compliant will not be able to open because we cannot risk anything or risk anybody's safety. But the golden rule is there will be no school that will resume if it's not ready. But on the other hand, we say no child will be left behind. Therefore, we have made alternative plans for some of the schools that we have declared unfit to operate whilst we are sorting them out. So for the remaining 5% or so of learners, alternative measures have been developed by different districts and provinces. Some of them include using neighboring schools, using underutilized spaces, for instance, in boarding schools, and putting other learners in camps just to make sure, as I said, indeed, no learner must be left behind. So because some of these alternatives need consultations with parents in particular, provinces will be engaging parents and following appropriate protocols to get parental concession that we move learners from where they are and find them spaces in alternative places. And again, Chair, I want to mention that we have since published the directives in terms of regulations under the Disaster Management Act 2002 regarding the reopening of schools. And the measures that we have published are measures to address, prevent, and combat the spread of the virus in the basic education sector. And the directives as amended on June 1, 2020 do cater for deviations to the extent necessary to be applicable to small schools, special schools, as well as independent and private schools. They also cater, for instance, where parents may choose to keep their children at home, fearing that their children could be infected by the virus, or schools may not be ready to resume schooling. And again, Chair, I do want to report that around parents who are anxious to send their kids, we have a few proposals which have been tabled before us as CM. We're considering those proposals, and in a very short space of time, we will be able to respond and say what should parents do if they are unable to send their children, not only for for underlying health challenges, but if it's also just pure anxiety about sending children to school. We have indeed solicited support and assistance from the South African National Defence Force, as I said, the Development Bank of South Africa, the Mvula Trust, to collaborate with the department and provinces to accelerate the provision of water and sanitation in outstanding schools, so that even in areas where we have sought alternative arrangements, those are really temporal, and we should be able, with all those departments and entities, find alternative ways of making sure that indeed we are ready. We are also cooperating with the Department of Transport to ensure that learner transport provided does meet the health, safety and social distancing measures as required by COVID-19. And this will include scholar transport for learners with special education needs. We are also continuing to work with the Department of Health and Social Development to ensure that health and psychosocial needs of school communities are being met. As I said, Level 3 has brought with it as a new set of regulations. Hence, for basic education, we supplemented the regulations with the directions we published this Friday, the 29th of May 2020. Because from the outset, we do concede that the directions cannot be seen as static. We have already published amendments to the directives on Monday to cover other eventualities and challenges which have been raised by partners. As we continue our engagements, we will strengthen the directions to the extent necessary. Other affirming health, safety and social distancing measures and requirements, the directions upholds the phased reopening of public and independent schools, starting with grade 7 and 12 on the 1st of June, followed by other grades, and we will continue to confirm, because we have published that the other grades will start on the 6th. The second phase will be on the 3rd of June. But we are in the process of revising the 2020 school calendar year to accommodate peculiarities brought by the COVID-19 pandemic. We have and will continue to respond to the new normal by developing and implementing plans which include regular and strict internal and external monitoring and evaluation mechanisms. And that's what we've agreed with partners, that we will be forming structures from schools level to make sure that what we have put in place is sustained throughout and on a daily basis. So we have agreed on making sure that HEADCOM, CM, and our partners, your teacher unions, your national school governing bodies, other sector-based stakeholders, including national associations representing independent schools as well as special schools, will also collaborate and meet regularly to make sure that we can monitor and evaluate on an ongoing basis the sustenance and the improvement of measures put in place. The challenges that relate to comorbidities among educators are also being attended to. An agreement with organized labor is about to be completed. Standard operating procedures will be circulated among schools to ensure that schools are able to manage identified infections among educators, learners, and educators and support staff. In the meantime, whilst we are waiting for the signing of the agreement within education, the health procedures apply until such time we enhance them. Where practically possible, learners from not-so-ready schools will be moved to neighboring schools that meet the health, safety and social distancing set measures and requirements. The teaching and learning programs provided online will continue, and parents who are uneasy to send their children back to schools must follow the law to ensure that their children's rights to basic education is unhindered. Today, we have members of the Executive Council present at this media. I have also invited Rand Water. We have also linked with heads of education departments, with MECs, to also engage the public on the state of readiness. And as we conclude, I wish to conclude by acknowledging the immeasurable and highly appreciated support and guidance and stewardship that we got, that was provided by His Excellency, the President, Cabinet, the National COVID-19 Command Council, And the support that has been provided, as I said earlier, by the Department of Water and Sanitation, Rand Water, the Department of Health, National Treasury, and recently great support and a boost that we got from the South African National Defence Force, the Development Bank, the Department of Transport, the Mvula Trust, but also different entities of government that came to the fore, and more important also, the support that we got from different communities. Chair, I think I will not be representing my colleagues well if I don't say, and I think we'll mention it at DG, that we have fully appreciated the support that we got from the communities, the support that we got from the private sector, but schools have raised the concerns of visitors in schools and have requested me to make the appeal to say, for now, I think things are fine. We would not wish for people to visit schools if not by appointment to the principal, because school says they've had people coming to check on their readiness, not wearing masks, and now that they're going to be receiving learners, they will not wish to have other people who are not part of the school establishment to visit schools. So we're humbly requesting the public not to visit our schools unless it's per appointment with the principal, or they have a letter from the district saying they'll be visiting a school, but there should be no other person in the school premises starting from Monday the 8th. And yeah, so we're saying with all respect, because people have really been around helping us the whole week, but we just don't think it helps us to maintain the safety standards that we want to do. So, Chair, I really want to stop at that. You will guide us how we're going to proceed. As I said earlier, the DG is there to provide the report that comes from different provinces, which explains the state of readiness. We also have water and sanitation. I'm sure they can't wait to part ways with us. We phone them every day and ask for reports twice a day. So they are here to also just give an indication as to where we are. And more important, unfortunately, the NECT, until this whole trip is finished, they are stuck with us. But they will also give a sense of where we are in terms of readiness. So I want to thank you very much,